And the last one I've got here is this dot bind on completed. Now, we saw before that completed on the list is going to change anytime any model changes. So I could have just used any model change. But it's easy to read if I put this dot bind completed, because I know I only really want to change these things if completed changes. So I pop that in. And what I'm going to do is on that, I'm going to pass in completed models. So completed models gets passed in with this dot with the completed. So it does the get on completed and it passes it to me here. So I don't have to get that either. So that's why I'm using this dot bind. It also future-proofs it because PlastronJS is still evolving, and I'm planning to have something come out soon where this dot bind on a change which is looking within models is going to be a little bit smarter about when it should fire. So what I do is I look in the templates here for the items left. So if I go into templates.soy, I'm using this one down here. I'm using a template because I'm using a bit of DOM there. I'm using HTML tags and a little bit of logic in there, just whether or not I should put the S. Now the templates I'm using are soy templates, or they're closure templates. So have a look online and see how to use those. It's really useful when you're using the closure tools and Plover because it all works together. Next thing I do is update the clear button because that will also have numbers. So if I go here and see every time I'm entering things in, this number down here is changing. When I'm changing the completed, this is changing, and this is changing too. The last thing that's changing is the checkbox. So anytime I'm changing completed, if I change them all, you will see that this goes on. When I take one off, you'll see it comes back off. So that's what that is doing. It's just saying if all the completed is equal to the list length. Now that's all the handlers that I need on my list control. The last thing I need to do is, now that it's all set up, go and try and fetch anything I have in the local storage. So that's going to use the sync and try and fetch all the models in and display it on the page. So there's the show main footer. Set filter, we're going to look at it in a bit. And here's the refresh. So when I called refresh, I'm actually going through and say for each child, dispose it. Now in this case, let's just keep going for a moment. So the child in this case is not the model. The child in this case is going to be a control. Because this is the control we're looking at, and the control has its own children, and the list model has its own model children, and they shouldn't touch each other. So then I'm going through and I'm removing them. So first thing I'm doing is disposing each control, so that means get rid of all their event handlers that it's got set up, and also get rid of its DOM, and then I'm removing the children, so then this control is no longer has that child, and it does a final sweep to make sure that all the elements are cleaned up and taken out of the document. The next thing I do after that is that I go through each model underneath the list with whatever filter I've set. So remember before I had all the different filters you could have. And then I'm going to create a new control, so a new to-do control using each of the models underneath. So here's to-do control. To-do control is an MVC control again, and this time it has a create DOM. Now, create DOM is used with a render. So before I had a decorate because there's already DOM, now I have a dot render because I'm actually creating a DOM and putting it in the page. So I am creating the template. And you can see here, I've got some logic about whether or not to put on things like if it's completed or not completed. And the reason I have the logic in the templates is because I'm rendering it. I'm doing a refresh of all the document, of all the things. Now, if I went the other way and I only wanted to change and I wanted it to handle itself, I would not have these inside here. I would instead put it in a event handler, and anytime anything got changed in the model, it would update its internal DOM about whether or not it should have these classes. But because I've got a refresh, so any change is going to output straight away, it's easy to put the logic in the template. So let's go back to the to-do control. So that's the correct DOM. It's passing in the model by its JSON and letting it create itself. So how it displays is based on how it sits at that point in time. Then again, I've got another entered document. So this is where I set up all the things. Now you can see that what I'm doing here, any changes I've got on, all I'm doing is I'm making changes on the model. So I'm making the change in the model, and that change to the model is going to fire off any model change, and then it's all going to be refreshed and shown. So I don't have to actually worry about changing how things look in here. So the great thing about that is it means that I could also put it underneath other controls and let those controls deal with how things should look, how they should be displayed, and what else goes wrong. And I don't have to change anything. All I'm doing is change the model. I'm not doing anything to change the other views. So what I've done here is I'm saying on a toggle, that just changes the complete. So that just changes whether or not this is complete. Changes the model, and the refresh will do whether or not it shows up as complete. Same with the destroy. All it's doing is disposing of the model, so it gets rid of that. And this one here is just getting handled to input L for the rest of it. So the other thing that I can do is actually edit. Things go in here and change. So all I have to do is I listen to it, double click, and if I've double clicked it, I'm changing it to being in the editing mode. So I'm just changing the element there. And what it's going to do is it's going to hide the view and show the edit. So if I have a look at my DOM, let's have a look at this. You can see that there is an input, which is a class edit, and there's also a div view. So this is what you normally see. And once I click on it, as you can see, if I mouse over that, you can't see anything highlighted. Once I edit it, that will be hidden and this will be shown. Then all I do is I listen on that input to either a key up or a blur, and whether it's an enter on the key up or a blur, I will set the title for that input value. Again, all I'm doing is setting the model and letting the list control deal with showing it. And that's it for actually showing everything here. The only other thing that we do now is changing this in here based on the route. So as you can see, you can use different routes, and I can even change it there to active, and it will show you there. So it's changing things based on a route. And the route lives back in the app.js. Now this function here, toggle filters, that will change which one here is highlighted, and that's all it does. That's just changing that. As you can see, all I'm doing is I'm bringing in the chosen filter. The filters, I'm just getting the elements A, so that just gets me a handle for these 3, and then I'm just saying for each of those filters, enable selected class on that filter if the text is equal to the chosen filter. So chosen filter, I'm passing in the text in there. I'm saying if the text is equal to all, if it's equal to active, or if it's equal to completed, put selected on that. And the other thing I'm doing is I'm also setting the filter. So for nothing, active and completed, I'm setting all active and completed. So as you can see, are the filters from here. So if we have a look back at the list control, these are the filters I'm enumerating, the ones I'm passing through, and I change it in set filter, and that's going to be out, and then I refresh it, and as you can see in here, that's where the filter comes in, and when I put the controls in. And that's going to be it. That's how the entire application works. If you've got any ideas about how you like to improve it, or you like to try different things, drop me a line, let me know. You can also have a look at it in GitHub. If you look at the TodoMVC example, it's under there. And yeah, thanks for watching, and hope to talk again soon.